Welcome to Forum Views, your local magazine show from Cavan TV. Remember folks, you can get anything on the show or come on the show and talk about stuff by contacting us on cavantv.com or drumlinmedia@gmail.com. So for myself, Daniel Downey, and
Sheila Reilly, you're very welcome to the show.
Very much. So who do we have on the show tonight, Sheila?
Tonight we have Kate Ennals and Gerry Fitzpatrick. Kate, of course, is very familiar to Forum Views viewers, but maybe you'll tell us a little bit about yourself. We might have attracted a few new viewers
for the huge
since you left.
new viewership that we have.
Yeah, well, of course, I was involved in the community forum, but now I'm in Galway, actually, so this is a guest appearance. So,
for one night only.
Yeah. They should have got me to do the celebrity on the food cooking on the Taste of Cavan. So I'm in Galway studying, doing an MA in writing, which is absolutely brilliant. So I just spend all my time writing and writing and writing, so my words should be perfect.
That's super. We'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have you on to some poetry reading sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I've been doing what are they called? Sort of poetry competitions, poetry slams and fiction slams. That is really scary now.
It's a bit stressful, is it?
It is a bit stressful. But, that's okay.
I could have done with you last week at the poetry day in Cavan. I got up, I was very nervous reading out poetry in the public.
Oh, did you? Yeah, it's scary,
Is
isn't
it?
it?
Your own poetry?
Yeah, but it was scary though.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have like some sort of poetry face-off.
A poetry off.
Yeah. So, well, anytime I'll come down and read my best poetry. Short stories.
Gerry, you're also no stranger to the show. You've been on a couple of times before. But for folks at home who may not have seen those particular shows, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Just to say, what we're looking forward to, by the way, about Kate and her MA in writing is the production of a best-selling book, which, of course, it'll be fiction. But, of course, in time-honoured fashion, as James Joyce really has made famous, we'll all be in it.
Well, actually, funny you should say that, because I'm just doing a short story and it is based on my experiences in Cavan.
Anything to do with the forum or your
Everybody's
previous...
going to read it going, that's me!
Apparently that is what happens. Stephen King's written a really good book called On Writing. Yeah, and it's excellent because what it does is it describes his whole experience, and he's really enthusiastic, and he says that every book he publishes, he has people coming up off the streets to him saying, that's based on my friends or colleagues, saying, was that character me? So...
Brilliant. So that's
anyway, we'll await that.
When the bestseller comes out.
Back to your question. Sorry, I'm Gerry Fitzpatrick. Yes, I have. I've been delighted to be asked back on Cavan TV. I'm the chair of the Cavan Community Forum, and I'm also active in a place called Lochgowna, County Cavan.
Oh, that far-flung that place.
We never heard of it in this show.
I once went there, but I couldn't get a visa, so...
So that's me.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, first thing on the show, we're doing a little bit of a promo for an event that's coming up. It's this is the Taste of Cavan.
And here's the leaflets first.
So, folks, do pick up your leaflets.
It's on 1st of November.
It's a day of eating lovely stuff and... What we've all had a look at
eating lovely stuff from Cavan.
Yes.
Cavan producers.
What does Cavan taste like? That's what I think it should be named. Instead.
Cavan Cola should be named.
Taste like that would be brilliant.
Yes,
I'd love to have Cavan Cola.
Far cooler, folks. That's next year. You have to do that next year.
What Cavan tastes like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, that's me and my great ideas. This is a great day, actually. It starts at 1:30, November the 1st. Ella McSweeney from RTE, who's a well-known foodie, and
she's quite
famously, yeah, she is quite lovely, it has to be said. But she also reared her own pig and killed it and ate it on one of the shows that she does. But that stuck in my mind for some reason. But she's seriously into food and into organic food and the idea of local produce and all of that sort of thing, which is really what this event is trying to promote. It's promoting, obviously,
local
produce.
produce.
Local produce. There's a young chef of Cavan cook-off taking place on the day as well. Children's entertainments, all that sort of stuff. Dessert demonstration at 1:45. I'll be there at that. Tina Lynch from the Big Apple is doing that. This actually is taking place in the Kilmore, the events I'm talking about now. And there's Simon Coveney, the Minister for Agriculture, is going to be officially launching the event at 2:30, so everybody can be stuffed full of desserts, and then Simon Coveney comes on. So that's cool.
Is he cooking?
I don't think he's cooking.
He's
but
just there
maybe
because he's also TD
Yeah.
for, he's the Minister for Food too.
Agri and food. So
Well, that's why he's launching
pastry demonstration after that.
pastry demonstration after the desserts.
After Simon Coveney. Simon Coveney needs to be a bit worried because he squished in between the desserts and the pastry demo. I think they decided we'll put him in where most likely the people will be there, you know.
Is this kind of like a sweet, sour, sweet?
I don't know what it is, but that's what they decided.
He's sandwiched between them.
Yeah. For the day that's in it, it's the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
See, already, it's paid off. That MA is paying off already. There's other events, cookery demonstrations and that taking place during the day, including Nev Maguire. Paolo Tullio is going to be down doing wine tasting as well, and all that sort of stuff.
I did a wine tasting course.
Did you?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, no, doing wine tasting it's really improved my knowledge about wine.
Appreciation.
Wine appreciation will involve a lot of tasting.
Do you appreciate wine?
Yeah, I know a lot more about it, and I'm now very clear about what I like and what I don't like.
How many bottles did you have to go through in that day to
God. Well,
learn
Daniel,
about
I think you were at my place when I came home afterwards, and we brought back...
Came or fell?
We brought back because it was supposed to be for a whole class, but there was only 2 of us there. So...
it's the perfect course!
And Kate, you're trained to give this course, aren't you?
I am. Anyway, so no. Yeah.
We should do a wine tasting show.
And reading poetry at the same time.
It's perfect.
We're going to change the format of this show. It's going to be cool.
That's actually ideal.
I
vote for that.
Christmas special on that, poetry and wine.
So make Fridays.
Okay,
I think one of the things about though the Taste of Cavan on the 1st of November, Kilmore, as Sheila said, is this is one of the first, if you like, events of the project, let's call it, This is Cavan.
Yes, that's right.
Because there's an idea of branding, if you like, This is Cavan, and getting the name of Cavan, out there amongst...
Building on the brand created by the Flower, probably.
Exactly,
and
I mean, because of the success of the Flower in, 3 years, and because there's a national push on called The Gathering, and to try and draw back the diaspora and have a number of events next year, that... the promotion of Cavan under the branding, This is Cavan. I understand that this idea of a taste of Cavan, where you're promoting food, local produce, and local producers, and local, shall we say, experts, whether it's now Nevin Maguire or some of the other ones that Sheila read out.
I think Gerard Lynch from the Old Post is very well known locally as well, and Fergus Murphy from Murph's Bistro in Cuthill, which is actually, that's been awarded the best casual dining restaurant in Cavan.
Oh, really?
I've heard it does kangaroo.
Wow.
Which is fantastic.
Something about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That's
there you have it.
And then you have the celebrities
Obviously,
cooking.
you would have. And then you have the celebs cooking. Joe Finnegan, Donald Keoghan, Kathy Durkin and Jack Keys. Present and cook a 3-course meal for review. Watch our 4 celebrities in action whilst enjoying a 3-course meal of Cavan produce.
I wonder what Jack Keys thinks about being a celebrity.
Yeah, well, I'd say
he's a very humble
celebrity. Be going along to see what Jack Keys is going going to cook up.
I think he's quite a good cook. He has a great garden.
So hopefully
he'll use some of his.
So there you have it. Taste of Cavan. It's part of the This is Cavan campaign.
November 1st in the Kilmore, starting at...
the whole day kicks off at 1:30. It's really
isn't there a breakfast or something actually?
There is a breakfast.
Talking
at
politics
10 a.m. in Cavan Grill. I presume, I'm not 100% sure, but I presume this is in the Kilmore as well. Make a solid start to the day with a full Cavan breakfast and informal panel discussion on the issues of the day. Matt Dempsey, who's the outgoing editor of the Farmers Journal, he's going to be there. John Bryan, who's the IFA president, and Liz Wall, who's the ICA president. She's very good. I've seen her a few times actually, and a host of others. So that's kind of obviously talking about agriculture and food and food produce, and really obviously for people who are interested in that thing. I think that's a great idea actually. It's a great day out.
Good. Are you going?
Stuff in your face for the day in Cavan. What would be wrong with it?
I'd love to go. I'm actually out of the country, so I'm going to miss it.
Never mind.
Heart broken here.
The community forum will be there with our pop-up. And we're hoping, by the way, to get one of our members, Declan Fitzpatrick, might not know this yet, to provide
he's heard it here first.
produce from the community garden in Drum Lane.
Very good.
Which would show Willing and show a local community
right
garden produce on a table.
Brilliant. That's excellent.
Stuff.
Okay. Moving on, keeping on a
with
happy
the
news
stories. Is Cavan on a winning streak? Student latest in a long run of Lucky Lotto winners, following the footsteps of Lucky Luke from the post office in town, who won the lottery.
In total, in the last couple of weeks, I think, or months, 3.5 million has been won in lotto money in Cavan.
You're
Believe it or not, no. 2.8 by Luke Sexton, which we covered a couple of weeks ago on the show, and he was in front of the set. He works in the post office in town.
Still?
Yes.
Actually, he went back to work after he
After
rang
he
his
discovered-
boss and he said, "Look, I have to pop to Dublin. I'll be late in for work. I'm picking up my lottery."
Okay.
Brilliant.
And
went
he
to work.
stayed.
He stayed.
Very sensible.
The young man on winning streak won, was it 250,000, 280,000 I think in total.
Wow.
Yeah. There was also somebody who won 500,000 on the Daily Millions recently.
Oh, okay.
In Kingscourt, I think, and then somebody else in Belgium stuff who won 10,000.
So there's no point in us playing anymore.
We're
then.
on a winning streak.
Yeah.
Or that we promote the winning streak and let the winning streak continue and hope that one of us is going to...
I must say, I spent all my time trying to work out how I'm related to these winners. And, distant, cousin once removed via marriage. I think I might be there. I mean, the thing is, it does encourage people to, to continue to gamble.
Yeah.
Do
you think we could incorporate this into the gathering? Come to Cavan, it's where the money is.
It's the luckiest county in Ireland. I'm telling you, I really think people would go for that, because Irish people really do believe in kind of luck and things like that.
Not that we're going to spend on any of the money, because we're Cavan folk.
That is true.
Well, that's why he went back to work, presumably.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to keep a semblance of calm and normality.
He wanted to continue delivering the mail.
So it's talking of normality, keeping normality on the go. It's normal service has resumed in West Cavan, where Bus Éireann decided to do a U-turn on their decision to cut bus routes in the town. That's reported there in the South this week. This has been an issue of.
I think this is a very, very important example, and why you have, in a very arbitrary way, you have Bus Éireann cutting a bus service for folk in Ballyconnell and Bourne, and they give no notice. There's no real consultation, and they claim, or did, commercial viability. Now, here's the thing: is that over 1,000 signatures were collected by local community activists in the West Cavan area, particularly obviously around Ballyconnell and Bourne, and Margaret Brady, one of the organisers, came in and spoke to Cavan Community Forum, and she also spoke to councillors and spoke to the Cavan County Council. All in all, you had a remarkable example of community activists, the local public representatives, joining in a very quick, sustained campaign to say this was unfair. And lo and behold, there is a reversal. The bus services will be restored. Now, there's a bit of detail there, but let's not throw out the principle here, where you have local communities coming together and making a campaign and getting a result. Now, that is showing community activists and can make a difference.
Funny, Gerry, you should say in the detail. The devil is in the detail, because I received a phone call from Margaret Brady this afternoon after I prepped these stories to say that they've added an extra 3 buses to the route from the previous amount of buses, which means that
how could they ever have justified it then on the grounds of commerciality?
Well, that's what she was questioning, whether or not extra buses means diluting the amount of passengers. So when it is reassessed, which they said they will reassess it again early in 2013, they'll find that less people are on each bus because they've increased the number of buses, which means they'll have a greater justification for cutting the service.
Be conspiratorial. Do you think that could be happening?
But an extra 3 buses, 6 buses instead of 3 per day.
There is actually a spin on this, but and again, it doesn't take.
The bus is going on the same route.
Yes,
exactly. So they're not increasing the location.
Well, there is a little twist actually, but it shouldn't take away from the reversal of the decision. There is a twist, which is that the number 30 bus, which is basically the Cavan Donegal, that in fact is not going to be reinstated. But what they're going to do is they're going to provide a bus service that effectively will connect West Cavan to Cavan and to Monaghan. And Daniel, you're quite right. That's actually going to involve an increase in the number of buses available to the local community. Now, it sounds a bit too good to be true. And, of course, the reason is that they still have to get that approved by what's known as the National Transport Authority. Now, that will happen, but understandably, some of the members in the local community want assurances that this, will stand. And I mean, sometimes, Kate mentioned conspiracy. That there are still some unease that because of the arbitrary way in which this happened in the first place.
Yes, but the reality is that they did have. I mean, they were successful in what they achieved. They presented 1,000 signatures to Rory when he was down last week in Bonboy or Ballyconnery, wherever he was. It does show there is some element of people power in it, and without digging in too much into it, I understand where you're coming from. But there is something about it should instill people with a bit of optimism and say, well, you don't have to just take these decisions on their, as they're presented to you. You do actually have the power, because I think sometimes people feel very powerless. What do you think in the face of everything that's happening?
I think it's a really good example of what you can do at local level if you're working together as well, and probably a lot more of that needs to go on. And so it's a great thing to see. And I think there's probably less of the conspiratorial bit, because the Route 30 isn't going up through there. It's not stopping there. And what Bus Éireann are saying is that you need more buses between going on that axis, on the east-west axis as opposed to the north-south. So, it may work out for everybody, and it's great that we've got the bus routes back.
Well, Sheila's right, it's great. And by the by, Cavan Community Forum filed its protest on behalf of local members.
Well, that's why it was all changed.
Well, of course, we're going to claim victory.
And Cavan TV highlighted
on Forum Views.
Yes, we've been highlighting this.
We made a difference.
Everybody claim.
Everybody gets a bit of this action.
Well, look, talking about people power and action, also the Quinn rally was on last Sunday with a phenomenal turnout. I think 5,000 people. Cavan TV.
You'll just notice Vincent Brown there in the corner of that picture. You see him in the left-hand corner.
With his big arms folded. And,
that was the first thing I heard, actually, when I was listening to Northern Sound when I was in Galway the other morning. I like to listen just to keep in touch, and the first thing that I heard was that Vincent Brown was at the rally. that was the news item.
Really? That's great.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, what can we say about this? We've spoken
without
so many
delving
times.
too much into it, it's just, it's a great sign that people can come out and support a cause. Let's say regardless of what particular cause, whether you agree with it or disagree, it's a phenomenal turnout to support
for
somebody.
Ireland it is. It's, given the lack of protest.
I think I've seen something in one of the papers during the week, a question, why did only 1,000 people turn out for the people in Priory Hall, and yet 5,000 or more turn out?
Well, because it's jobs and it's economic, and money talks. That's
and do you think there was the rural end of it though as well?
I think there's a broader end to it, actually. I think there is there is that aspect of feeling on both sides of the border, for Manor and Cavan, that local people have been left behind in terms of jobs, in terms of infrastructure, and there's a sense in which, Quinn and all did provide, a focus on the border area, and jobs were created in Ballyconnell, jobs were created in Derry Lynn, and one has to understand that sentiment. I think people. Rural, border, a resentment against Dublin, a resentment against Belfast, and resentment against bankers who, have dragged us all down. I don't think that, by the way, I don't want to get into it, but I don't think that necessarily absolves, the company and, its
But it does
directors.
go some part of the way to explaining the turnout as such, because you find that a lot of people even people that would have been there would kind of be like that they wouldn't absolve the company, but still it goes back to the idea of anti the media, anti bankers, anti Dublin, if you like, Dublin in general, if you like, and that a lot of it stems from that, and then the idea of supporting your own as well.
Well, I mean, that's really all we can say on that, without delving too deeply, which we don't really want to do at the moment. So on to the next one, which is our due to reduction household charge payments, Cootehill street cleaning appears to have been cut
altogether.
From the Cootehill side of things.
Well, hang on, so the streets are just going to pile up with rubbish?
Well, you can see a picture there of one of the local shop owners trying to remove rubbish so he can privately dispose of it, because that bin is outside his shop in Main Street.
Well, but for how long?
Well, there is an issue here. There is an issue, which is this: that the council they look at the areas where the household charge is being collected, and they work out that there's a large percentage in Gowner, for example, or no, West Cavan.
Everyone's paid their household charge.
Or a higher percentage,
right.
Whereas in, say, parts of North East Cavan, it hasn't been the same. Now, I'm not suggesting this is the sole reason, but there is a bit of an undertow about how what level of payment has been made for household charge, what level of service are the local community going to get.
Is that what the government has essentially done to the local authorities if you move it up a level?
Well, exactly. I mean, what the government is saying is if you don't get in your property taxes, then you have to make the cuts. So what you're saying that Cavan County Council are doing,
macro
so what Cavan County Council are doing, say, okay, well, there hasn't been a great turnout in Coot Hill to pay. We'll cut there first. I don't know if that's the way to go about it. It seems to me to be rather arbitrary. I think, if they're going to need to make cuts, they actually need to do needs assessments and look exactly, at the services that are important and essential and where they are.
Do you think, Kate, if it had been Cavan Town, where people hadn't been paying their rates, would we be looking at a story like this in the South? Do you think that would have happened?
I doubt it, personally. But I don't know that story is even true, Gerry.
Well, the Director of Service, Joe McLaughlin, at the last council meeting, did say that this was one of the criteria factors in where the services would be provided.
They would actually not do a proper needs assessment.
Well, again, I have to go back to the idea that they're looking at the areas that have given in the money. I mean, they're just basically doing what the government has done to the
that's
the
wrong.
counties,
I
to
don't
the local
think that's
authorities.
the right way to go about things. And just because the government is incorrect in how it's approaching the property tax doesn't mean that the council
But there is
should
a logic
follow through.
to what the government is
but
doing.
There's a logic to what Hitler did in his own
there
mind.
is a logic
you don't
in what they're doing in terms of what they want to do. They want to get in €100 a house.
No, but you can't. I don't think that the local authority should be seen to be following hook, line and sinker the government's method of introducing property tax or what have you. The council has to look at its community and the most vulnerable. It's not the council's job to decide that. It's the council's job to implement government policy or law. And it has to pick up waste. It has a statutory responsibility for that. So, and if it's looking, and it needs to look after the community. So if it's looking, if it has cuts to make, and, I pity them because there are going to be awful cuts that have to be made and terrible decisions that have to be made. But they really need to make those decisions in a fair and transparent way. I don't think that they should just be implementing the work of the government in the way the government does it.
Anyway, the good news is, one would hope that the business persons in Coot Hill and the local community will gather together and protest and seek their town cleaning services back.
Well, let's see. Will there be a protest?
On that positive note, we're going to have to take a break, and we'll be back after this, folks.
I'm Gavin Duffy, and I'm saying watch cavantv.com. It's a great opportunity to see some great programmes, and you can watch it all around the globe via the internet and on many platforms. I watch it myself. Great stuff.
Welcome back to Forum Views on Cavan TV, and we're running through the stories from the Anglo-Celt, Irish Times and the Irish Independent this week. So with myself and Sheila, we have Kate Ennals and Gerry Fitzpatrick, and our next story we're hitting is burglaries are up 10% in the county. And we just kind of popped this one in because we've seen such a degradation of local Gardaí services across the county in the last few weeks in newspapers, and now we have a rise in burglaries. It just seems fair that we should highlight that issue.
Did the police station, Garda stations close down? I haven't seen since I've been away.
You know
they were threatened in Ballinar and they haven't. Okay.
Not that I know of now, but
Right,
I don't know
okay.
if anything that was closed is closed, but nothing, no change.
I tell you what I'm interested about that figure that appeared. It was actually the Celt, wasn't it, this week? Is the statistics and damn lies. I say that because we had this week we had a community alert meeting in Gowner. No promo for Gowner, but
no more promos for Gowner. Go on anyway.
But making a serious point, we had 4 Garda turn up with, and they did a very good job on public awareness on crime prevention and the community texting idea. But here's the point. They went to an awful lot of trouble to present figures based upon the county as a whole and based upon the southwest. And the clear message of that was actually that burglaries and crime figures had actually fallen in the county on a year-on basis. So this was the message that local people were getting.
Anecdotally, that is just not what you're hearing.
Like 3 weeks ago we covered a story about East Cavan and Central Cavan town area just suffering from terrible incidents, and even last week we had the 2 home help carers.
You see,
people posing as home
they
help
get to the point where they don't report crimes
going
like
in
this.
and stealing from elderly persons.
And
it's
even,
tragic.
in Gowner, honestly, the amount of discussion of people who've been burgled or robbed when they're in the home even, in the last year has been quite big as far as I remember.
And you see, that I know, I understand that maybe there might be an element there of, providing some comfort to people, which is understandable, but the reality is this actually came out at a JPC meeting as well, something similar or not quite the same. And basically the Garda Anne-Marie Larkin, she spoke at it and she said that she was, that it's up to people kind of basically promoting community text alert schemes and like we do see the effectiveness of them. Like the one in Gowna, the Gowna, Aughacliff, Mullahorn, those areas, they're very effective.
I don't know. I think they are effective, and I think it's great to have people aware in that sense. And I think that's the value. No, I think that's the value of the texting. It's quick, it's easy, and you feel a part of a network. So that makes you feel much more safe anyway, and more secure being even just part of that network. And it's a very simple thing to do. Burglaries are going to increase with the economic situation that we're in at the moment, with unemployment being what it is, and increased drug use being what it is. That is simply going to be a fact of life. And okay, the guards are going to be cut, and everything's going to be cut. It's not going to get any easier. So we just have to manage it.
Come in with some good news, will you? Don't be telling us
I'm not an apologist, by the way, for the inverted commas the Garda spin or Garda figures. But I think, and Sheila's right, I think that there's a mismatch between actual figures that are recorded at Garda Station and the number of incidences there is under reporting. But I think there's a real balance to be struck, though, between ensuring that there's awareness in the community and there's vigilance without getting to a point where alarmism takes over and it actually undermines community integrity or community cohesion.
Well, I can understand that,
and anxiety, in some measure, unnecessarily. It's a hard thing to say this, but it's striking a balance between the circumstances that
but there's no point in going into a meeting, Gerry, and saying, "Oh, crime figures have dropped, burglaries have dropped," when everybody sitting in that room probably knows somebody who's been burgled in the last year.
I think there's a real danger around trying to people feel just even more destabilised then because they see something happen. They see something happening and yet they're being told the opposite. And I think that's an increasing fact of life, that we never know.
And what it does, it makes it undermines the Gardaí and what they're doing as well. That's the reality of it. And why they still don't want their guard stations to be closed, even if they are undermined in their eyes. You know,
and
what I mean?
you can understand that. You can understand that. But if it means that we come together a little bit more to be more supportive of each other and create safer securities, that's no bad thing.
Yeah,
it's great.
Okay.
Well, speaking of cuts and things like that, we have our next story, which talks about local government changes. Cavan County councillors to be reduced to 18. And this is quite a widespread story.
Latest plan.
It's
putting people first.
Yeah, putting people first by cutting their reps.
He's getting rid of 80 town councils.
That
the proposal.
title is so irritating, Anyway, forget that.
I mean, Sheila's an interesting point there. In County Cavan, we have 3 town councils: Cavan, Cootehill, Belturbet.
Yes.
They're going to be abolished. That's obviously a headline, and obviously the town councillors are, understandably upset, at this ending of the town council principle and the town council local representation. So that's a real important factor. And there's no doubt this time.
Towns. Why does Belturbet have a town council and Virginia doesn't?
Yeah, you see,
they're historic.
Well,
that's not good enough.
But,
that's not.
I'm not defending. I'm not defending.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like at this day and age, it was time for reform.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Like Virginia and Ballyduff, the population that they have now.
Compared
to the rest of Ballyburgh, all up that end of the county. And when you think that Cootehill and Ballyburgh
has a lower population than Mullet,
with,
for example.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
But where are they? They're going to put in place these, what are they called?
Municipal districts.
Municipal districts. Has that been identified
No.
as to where?
Well, that's the important interest. That I think is really going to be the interest on the ground. In Cavan, it would appear, Daniel read out, the reduction of 25 county councillors now to 18.
Yeah.
Now, the way it appears to be looking is that the county will be subdivided into 3. And as you're saying, Sheila, the 3 municipal districts, new entities centred on the bigger towns, will be coming into play. And so you have, let's say, crudely,
it's not just the bigger towns, though, Gerry, is it? Because it takes in their environs as well. So I think it's important not to emphasise
the phrase that's used in the
towns.
report is population clusters.
Exactly.
Towns and their environs.
Yeah, and each one will be roughly 20,000 each to fill up the 60,000 population.
And there you have it. You basically have a West Cavan, if you like, municipal district, a Mid Cavan municipal district, and an East Cavan municipal district, and they would elect 6 people, and those 18 would comprise the 18 county councillors.
Yeah.
Now that's what everybody will be interested in, because this clearly is going to happen this time. The government, Minister Hogan is saying legislation will be there, and this will happen before the 2014 local government elections.
Right, yeah.
So we're all going to be interested. How are the powers that be going to subdivide the county into 3? And back to Kate's point about this clustering environs of power, of towns.
The districts will, I presume, like the Constituency Commission comes in after the elections, that they'll have to do the same for after the local elections. Then they'll have to come in and readjust.
Well,
or before in this case,
the elections.
Before in this case, but from here on in after, you'd imagine that then they kick in when population change.
If you look at the population, if they have East, Mid, and West, right, a large part of our population base is in the south.
Well, you're going to find, for example, Arva and Gowna will be in West Cavan now.
Yeah, Virginia.
Up to maybe Kilnalek.
Yeah.
Well, if you take the
I think Ballyduff might be west.
Take the change that the constituency change that we have seen here, where you've seen that end of Cavan, if you like, hived off and stuck on to Leitrim.
Yeah.
So possibly it'll be that type of situation as well. That end will be.
But unfortunately, looking at the stats, that particular boundary doesn't have 20,000 people.
No,
it wouldn't have to drive
near
it.
You're right.
So that's what we're saying. So I think you probably have to come down into the county as far as Ballyduff, and include Ballyduff into
would
that.
Be your urban centre, if you like, of that.
Yeah.
That, I think, will be the real interest. Local communities will want to know, well, wait a minute, and why? They'll want to know why. Why are we placed in East? Why are we placed in West? Yeah. It seems to me, because of the population of Cavan Town, Mid Cavan will be comparatively easy. But where do you draw the line in terms of West Cavan and where does it meet East?
Well, I'd just
and
say
who's in
it's
and who's
going
out
to be down
of
to the
which?
numbers.
Yeah,
And
It's
it
going to
will.
be down to the
Yeah.
numbers, and that's why you will see out of this in the next 2014 election, the local election, you will see a massive face change, if you like, in there, because people who up until now have been getting elected in quite small little districts, realistically they have in small districts, you know, they're going to kind of basically be put out because we've kind of moved into the municipal district end of things.
Well, I don't think that's any bad thing, actually. I think it would be
neither
great
do I.
to see
New
some
faces, you mean?
faces coming through. But one of the things I was disappointed about the putting people first was the complete no mention of councillors, their roles, and the training and the supports
That's a very good
that are
point.
available for them. Because this is, you know, while you're having all these changes come into place, now is the time to put the training, to really sit down and address what it is, what is the role of the councillors.
Well, in actual fact, it reduces the role of the councillors by saying, like, planning.
Well,
issues,
they have
you know,
more. No, okay.
Well,
they're losing
no,
their
they've
section
got increased-
140, but they essentially do have increased powers as such.
Because I think those municipalities, or whatever they're going to be called, will have increased powers, and actually the county council will have less. And of course, I don't know
How that will play out, Kate,
I don't
is still
know.
very
It's-
vague.
it's
But it's
still
an interesting
very
question. I mean,
extremely vague.
there are challenges, no doubt, about what the government intends in putting people first. But there are also
It's
opportunities.
been their mantra all along.
But there's also opportunities about how devolution of decision making is put in the municipal districts. And is it going to be the case that local communities, local people, can actually have more say in planning or more say in community facilities, and have that, if you like, decided upon by the municipal district?
Well,
now,
how's that
I'm
gonna
not,
work? How are
I'm
the
not necessarily saying
community
any of that's
Just
going to
before
come to pass,
before
but
let's kind of hold it here, because if we try to delve in how it may work,
Yeah.
we're going to be
Yeah.
yeah. So
That
will
was
we
very interesting.
head on to our
Yeah,
next
right.
story?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a very
sure.
interesting story. We should revisit it, and we should have someone on, maybe some of the councillors, to come on and talk about this issue.
Yeah, we should
So
do a whole programme actually.
all the councillors
Very
who are
interesting.
talking about this definitely come on and engage with us in
And
Cavan
tell us
TV.
why you shouldn't
Why
be
you
abolished,
shouldn't
why
be.
your council shouldn't be abolished.
yeah.
We're on to our next story, which is a food poverty report has been released showing people are facing challenges in what some regard as everyday living activities. And we have some of the stats there, as you can see from the next photo, I think. And it's
Hit the button,
strange.
Dave. Okay.
Almost 15% of people are unable to have friends or family for a meal or drink. This found, and this has increased in the last few years. So it's quite a
Interestingly enough, today as well in Galway, they were opening a new soup kitchen, and
That's an utterly depressing
it's-
statement. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's astonishing how much it's used. you
well
know.
here in Cavan, St Vincent de Paul and the night shelter have had almost trebled since 2009 their intake of people.
Yeah.
So it's not a great sign. Something is
That's
the
the harsh
cuts
reality
are not
of-
being made properly, probably, and it's just
And of course,
Look,
they were
what can you
giving
do
out.
though about something like that? What can you do about food poverty? Like realistically, what can somebody in power do to change?
Well,
let them eat cake.
Well, it's the people who are falling through the net are the usual suspects, you know. It's the unemployed or the claimants who haven't picked up a cheque because they haven't managed to get to sign on or something, so the cheque hasn't come through to the dole office. It's people with disabilities.
But it's also the middle class poor, Kate, and that's one of the
Not
things
who
that
are in
came
the
through.
soup kitchens.
No,
but
no, that's
but
what came through
Yeah,
in that survey
absolutely, on the
this
food
week.
poverty. Absolutely. Well, you know, to be fair, I wouldn't have people around for dinner anymore.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
Because you can't afford it,
I
you
can't
mean?
afford it. No, I simply can't afford. And being a student is
Yeah.
a complete nightmare. I have to say, you know, in that sense. But you know, so I don't have people around for dinner. My own food buying purchasing power is something like about 25 a week. You know, and that's max.
Yes.
So I mean, you know, that's just me. There's loads
Yeah,
of
and
people
just
who-
imagine the people out there. And I mean, a lot of what we were seeing in the human side of the story that was reported during the week was people who just huge mortgages, you know, who had
Absolutely.
stretched themselves, bought the house with the extra bedroom was one where I read, and you know ended up with these massive mortgages, and then were on very good salaries, you know, guards and all, but literally could not make ends meet due to their massive mortgage repayments.
I think that's true that Middle Ireland genuinely has, or a good, segment of Middle Ireland, like you described, the ones with big mortgages and so on, and commitments they've already entered into, they are suffering. There's no question, and they are, you know, cutting corners and genuinely feel, you know, strapped. And I think we've got to take that on board and look at ameliorative measures, or the governments.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
But I think you also don't throw out, though, how inequality is still in Ireland, you know, increased despite what some of the figures say. And it's as Kate described, it's those really at the margins who are now the recipients of soup kitchens. And one of the things about Ireland in the Celtic era did close this child poverty gap. Now, you know, that has widened again, and that's the most depressing.
You're in the cycle of poverty, and you know, here we are now, and we are perpetuating this cycle of poverty for another generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's the frightening thing of what's
one
going
of the
on.
things that might be interesting to do is to actually, for the soup kitchens, to try and engage with more people to get them to go in and see. Because you go in and see a soup kitchen, you would be shocked, really, that this is what Ireland has come to. So I don't know, just in terms of what you can do is maybe even, you know, to get more and more people engaged in that kind of volunteer work.
Yes.
And
again,
the awareness.
is it coming back to the community? Is it the
does.
community that has to? Community and agriculture in Ireland seems to be the only two pillars that really. That you can always fall back on.
Well, you always have to, and of course the community are now. But that's why it's really important that the county council takes responsibility for these sorts of things as well, and so it doesn't put the cuts where the people aren't paying the property tax. You know, that it invests in, say, in sustainable technology. That might take 15 years to come through to get the payback. It's really important that the county council invests in this, and that it makes the important decisions which can turn around that generational thing that's going to happen.
So on this message to the council, we're going to go for a break, and we'll be back after this, folks. Welcome back to Forum Views on Cavan TV. And remember, folks, if you want to come on and chat to myself and the lovely Sheila Reilly, you have to contact us on drumlinmedia@gmail.com or cavantv.com. So remember, come on, folks, or get your issues on. So we're joined here by Kate Ennals and Gerry Fitzpatrick, and we're moving into our next story pretty fast on the children referendum, or as one person said to me today, the silent referendum. Because really, I was talking to some people during the week about this, and they said, what is the point? You know, everybody's going to vote yes.
So I don't think so.
You have to have that. You can't just go around changing the constitution without a referendum.
That would be a democracy.
But there are also a move to change legislation to say we can't find no voices to match the time in the media, 40 minutes for yes, 40 minutes for no. So that's also a dilemma there.
Well, then just reduce the amount of time that the media talks about it. That would be a good thing too.
That's why that person said it was the silent referendum.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
Well, I think there was a survey out today. Didn't the Youth Council produce a survey today which said a third of people said that they knew little or nothing basically about this referendum.
I know.
I think 14%.
It's
probably
very
14
short
people.
and easy to.
40% of people said that they knew a lot. But like a third of people said they didn't.
Well, I think it's important, and I think I'm certainly going to vote yes. I think it's important because it will identify in the Constitution the rights of children and the manner in which they can be presented, the manner in which they can be vindicated and defended in the, if you like, the state system. I think the question arises that, because let's be clear, children have fallen through, both in terms of their well-being, whether it's in particular families or at the when they're in the care of the state. I think the real question is back to the old argument. Yes, the referendum's carried. Will we have the resources, within, if you like, the broader social services, state and voluntary, to be able to pick up where children are falling through the cracks, either in a parental situation or in
Well, Gerry, that question of implementation is probably a question for another day, maybe. But we also have a picture of some of the no advocates, former independent. We've jumped.
Go back.
Oh, back.
Yes.
Former independent MEP Cathy Sinnott and anti-abortion campaigner Nora Bennis, who's formed Alliance of Parents Against State. And it's just probably good to highlight these as, if you want a balanced view, Parents for Children, which includes representatives of Christian Solidarity Party and columnist John Waters, and a group campaigning for the separation of church and state.
So you've really got a wide
spectrum.
Range
that says it all. That is why you should be voting yes.
Of course, we don't advocate any particular view here on Cavan TV, but
I do think there's an issue with information. People don't know enough about it, and they have a responsibility to stop. To stop whinging and just go online or look it up and stop expecting.
They say that
do you not get this sense of
material?
Listen, they can go and find out. It's in the papers. I personally don't think it goes far enough.
On that, let's go to the next issue, which is a change of political.
They're back.
Look at them. They're back in business. Plus 4%.
Well, they're not really
at
back.
the expense of Sinn Féin.
Yeah, Sinn Féin really is who they're
Have
down
Sinn
to.
Féin failed to capitalise on the corruptions of the previous Fianna Fáil government?
Well, I don't know. I mean, remember Sinn Féin went up. It was during
There was
the
a
May.
huge
In
spike.
May,
Yes, that's
wasn't
right,
it?
yeah.
And what was going on in May? That was the last referendum.
Last referendum, and
Yeah.
they were
Austerity.
very high
austerity.
vis at that stage. Yeah, there was a lot of them about. There was a lot. They were getting a lot of coverage in that.
Yeah.
So
I think that probably reflects a little bit more of that spike then, rather than them falling now, in a sense. Labour Party going up by 2 is interesting. Do you think that's because of Roisin Shorthall?
Well,
Because I think people supported her and felt that
she's left the Labour Party whip. I mean, she resigned the whip at the
I
same
know,
time.
but they
so
got
she's
again. It was a
essentially apart
spike.
from
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting politics, and everyone also in that
there's
same.
not bad news there for the government, really, for both government parties. I mean,
Well,
Fine Gael down
No,
1 and Labour
there
up
isn't.
2. Like that,
Well,
that's not bad going.
We have a picture
really.
there of the
graph. That's
Yeah.
what that's called.
That's
A graph. Yeah,
Whoa,
okay.
graph.
It does look like brain cells, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
it's a bit odd, isn't it?
They lost one of themselves in the times as usual.
I think you do have to take that trend, more important than the individual figures. Here you see a trend since the general election of a continued decline. It's not massive with regard to the leading coalition party, the Fine Gael, but a decline, if you put both together, the drop in terms of their support, and also note the dissatisfaction. The poll that shows dissatisfaction with the government
huge.
policies, that's still very worrying to the coalition government.
That's more worrying.
That's going to be what's keeping them awake this weekend.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be those figures, because
I mean,
they understand that
look at
on
the
a
trend.
bad week, if something goes wrong or something goes right, you can get it. You can enjoy a spike. But the dissatisfaction is a different, because that's really it comes from the way people feel genuinely.
And we have some of those figures for dissatisfaction of particular ministers here.
James Reilly, look at that.
Good out, Jimmy Reilly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, his dissatisfaction rating is hardly surprising.
Twice
Let's face
Joan
it.
Burton's. Twice it. It's incredible.
I don't think
She's got a very good satisfaction rate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which
she's
is
a great
great
performer.
Yeah, she is,
She's a
and
really
she's
good
done well
performer,
in
and
this
she's doing
post.
well in a very difficult ministry.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult department.
Well, moving on to ministries that are in charge of our country. Germany says no to deal on agreement on national debt.
You didn't have the real picture. The picture of
Okay.
the
Kissing.
Wait for it. Next
Do you
picture,
have it?
please. Hey! What a smooch.
Go on
What
in
a
there.
smooch.
Look at him.
And who's trying to get in between them?
I don't know. Somebody with a bit of sense, I'd say.
But
But this has now been called the Judas kiss. I love it.
I love it. Can we see that again?
It's great.
Dave, can we see that photo again? That's a
Dave, wake up
fantastic,
and put back
fantastic
on.
photo.
Yay.
Look, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It really is. Someone should do. I will. I'll do a Caravaggio Judas kiss with the.
Yeah. That's
but
the
it's-
Judas kiss. Yeah.
I think the striking thing about Enda Kenny is, and I mean this genuinely, you know, the Time magazine puts him on the Time European cover, the comeback kid, and he does have a good press.
He
and,
does.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
he's
you have to
the
say
whole
it.
tenet of that Time article was he enjoys a lot better press abroad than he does at
yeah.
home.
Well, he
And I
doesn't
think
enjoy a bad press. He doesn't get a bad
No,
press.
he doesn't.
here.
Sure, he's not
No.
around. He's not
No.
visible.
And I think,
But
yeah,
when you see him, he's actually very good.
But you'd
he
swear he was a
performs
foreign
well
minister.
in local.
He is more abroad, you know, selling Ireland and stuff like that, than he is
Well,
actually
he
trying
was
to
singing
solve problems
Cavan
here.
not long ago.
That's not abroad.
You had to pay 60
Well,
quid to go
exactly.
see
Yeah,
him.
he was
Seventy.
here.
70, yeah, you had to pay 70 quid to go see
but
him.
I think the interesting thing is again, the underlying thing about the dissatisfaction with the government and the trend is that when it comes to the big picture, you know, when it comes to solving Ireland's economic debt, the big players in Europe, and we're principally talking about Angela, say still no.
Yeah.
You know, there's still no
And
breakthrough.
she said no again today.
And said no again.
Well, she does have an election coming up, you know, and the Germans aren't in favour necessarily of the bailout sort of thing
No,
through the
they
ESM.
they might think that they've paid enough.
Yeah. Well, it is through the ESM.
Yeah.
Remember, it's not actually the
Well,
Germans.
oh, I know, yeah, but,
But they're the
in
biggest
general,
contributors to
it's
it.
really
Interesting
if they're the ones who are
that when it
supporting
came to the referendum, this was a cast iron thing. This was sold. This was a done deal for us. And yet we turned around and Angela Merkel today said, no, there were no promises made when we signed
a
this.
legacy bank debt. And
Well, great
We're landed
differentiation.
with it.
Great differentiation you see about the basically Germany saying no. We might have decided to basically allow money to be going straight to the banks and not to the sovereign state. However, that's something which now might be for the future, not what happened in the
what happened
past,
in
the
the past,
legacy.
Yeah.
So words,
Well, I have to
words
say-
that
well,
are said
I
at
have-
summits.
She's always said that.
Not necessarily.
She's always said
Well,
that.
in fairness, she didn't say that. In fairness to Enda Kenny, she didn't say that in June. The minister's statement said, "We will be prepared to provide European funds, basically,
Well,
directly
that is
to the
true.
banks."
Yes,
Like,
and they
all of
are.
this has
And
played
she hasn't.
They
she's,
are.
she's saying that
She
All
just
of the
didn't get her
questions
it's
about
tenses
just
the
whether
right.
it's back.
legacy
It's
Past
whether it's
tense
back
and-
pay.
and future
Yeah,
tense.
it's
all
whether
the
it's
questions
back.
That's all.
about the legacy
Yeah,
debt, and
yeah,
really this
yeah.
is now is what the
But
issue
it
is.
should have been. It should have been nailed down that it was the legacy.
When
debt.
you're over there negotiating,
negotiate
Yeah.
a bar in Munich,
that's next week. Isn't it? The
I'll
week
get
after.
battered. I'll get battered.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on to our next story.
Instead
floods.
of rivers of beer, we just have floods. Floods, more heavy
It's a
rain.
lovely
I
picture.
couldn't believe this. In Galway, it's been sunny for the last
And
week.
Cavan hasn't been too bad, but
Galway
the south.
is like tropical compared to the rest of the country. But I mean, does it not get rain in one every 3 days or
Well,
something
the
in
first
Galway?
3 weeks, it did nothing but rain, you know, and was miserable. And then the last 2 weeks have just. I was on the Aran Islands in my short and t-shirts. It was that
here.
hot.
I thought you were studying.
I am studying. I had to
This
go
is
and-
what's
I
called
turned into my mother.
artistic
I thought
creativity.
you were studying.
Inspiration. Inspiration, you see, from the Aran Islands.
Inspiration on Dunangus, isn't it? Dunangus.
Yeah,
Well, it's been raining in Gowna for
Has
3
it?
days and 3 nights.
well, it's
But we're not counting. But nobody's counting.
It's
No,
but
it
mostly
is.
these floods hit the southeast of the country, wasn't it? And it was just atrocious.
Well,
Absolutely
Cork,
atrocious.
Cork got hammered.
Yeah,
Did it?
Yeah.
Always does.
yeah.
Okay. Well, if the floods get good enough, here's a group of people who are definitely going to enjoy the floods. The Cavan Surfers. They're on the crest of a wave. I love that heading. Go on. Boom, boom.
Landlocked county reaches quarterfinals of All Ireland. Brilliant,
It's
brilliant.
great. It's a good story.
Crest
Yeah,
of the wave of the flood.
it's brilliant. Yeah. yeah.
Dave says it's like an Irish version of Cool Runnings. I have to tell people that.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
I couldn't claim it for myself, Dave. It wouldn't be right.
We need a Noah's Ark then,
So true.
to go along with the surfers.
But fair play,
Well,
to them, it just goes to show
congratulations
you
to them.
don't need
Well,
to live.
congratulations is right.
You know, it's
Oh, and
brilliant.
congratulations to Brady. I've forgotten his name.
Paul. Yes.
With the handball.
Oh, yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Legend.
Yeah.
Fourth. He's won the world championship four times in a row. Yeah.
He's quite
and himself and Michael
extraordinary.
Finnegan are on their way to hopefully
good.
winning the doubles as well. It's massive,
Brilliant.
massive.
Yeah, just
It's a
unbelievable.
major
isn't it?
boost for someone like Paul Brady, because it's such that sport is completely under the radar, handball. And,
It is,
but he is training all the time. Like I know him, he's a really, really dedicated guy, very clean.
Is he training anyone else to come up after him?
I don't know how it works though with handballing. That there doesn't seem to be the structure behind it that the other GAA sports have, and it's such a pity because you do have the potential. I mean, he plays in the States and things like that, and now they're looking at making this an Olympic sport. So, God, that could be fantastic.
He's following Katie Taylor's. He can be the breakthrough person for
But really,
recognition.
will he have the same recognition as Katie Taylor?
You mean will he go professional?
In Cavan as a fantastic sport?
Well, he is highlighted
I
in
think
Cavan,
he does, but I don't think it's outside of here. It's very low profile. I think everybody here knows who he is.
Mind you, I heard on RTE.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people this week giving out about the lack of coverage that RTE were giving it.
Yeah. No, I did hear it on RTE.
And I heard him interviewed on RTE as well. I thought that, in
Yeah.
fairness, they did okay, but it just doesn't have the profile, and that is the problem. Maybe bringing it here. But there's a great tradition of handball in Cavan. I mean, he obviously started handball out in Mullahoran in the handball alley out there, but really learned his trade.
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
Trying to
It was the
steal
one
him.
in Locked Up.
It was genuinely.
You were trying to steal our road.
Mullahoran.
It was genuine. Well, we all played handball
I know.
when we were kids. Yeah, everybody in Mullahoran had to play handball a bit.
And don't forget the Cavan TV covered the county finals as well. That was just...
Is Dave telling you that?
Yeah, Dave telling us to say that, of course. Yeah.
Stop listening.
How
to
do you
him.
know, Kate? How do you know these things?
It's like a little elf. He actually is jumping out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cavan TV promo has to be Dave from my ear.
That's good.
Anyway, speaking of Cavan TV promos, folks, remember, if you want to come on Cavan TV, contact us on Cavan
Or raise
TV,
any issue.
Or raise any issue at all that we can air. Contact us on cavantv.com or drumlinmedia@gmail.com. So, from our guests this evening, Gerry Fitzpatrick and Kate Ennals, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sheila,
Thank
thank you
you
very much.
Thank you.
And folks, thank you very much for joining us, and see us again next week.